Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. I have here Kathy Ferris. She is a certified life coach, speaker, and mentor who helps women find clarity and confidence during major life transitions like divorce, career shifts, and rediscovering their purpose. A mom of four and former teacher, fitness coach, and real estate agent, Kathy draws from real life experience to empower women to stop playing small and start living boldly. She's the founder of a growing coaching business, creator of a postnuptial agreement workbook, and host of the upcoming podcast, Catapulting Confidence. And that is spelled KAT. I love that. Like her name, Kathy. With heart, humor, and hard-won wisdom, Kathy helps women reclaim joy and create lives they love. That's amazing. Congratulations on your upcoming podcast. You're going to have so much fun. Oh my gosh. It's so much fun.
I am, I am so excited about it. I feel like that this part in my life, it is just everything's like kind of new, even with you've got all that wisdom, but you're branching off into new things. And being on a podcast can be intimidating, or creating one, right? You're the tech side of it. But now I'm just learning to, hey, it is what it is. We don't all have it figured out, and it'll work out.
100%. Because when we start creating, it will just flow like naturally. Everything and it will be in alignment because you're meant to do this. And so if you make mistakes, that's okay. They're learning opportunities. I've made mistakes. I'm still making mistakes, but I'm loving the process because I'm learning more about myself in the
Yes,
process.
that's what I find, right? You think you're gonna
Yeah.
and learn something, which you do from people, of course, but you're like, wow, I'm really growing
Yes.
with this and learning. It is amazing. So I am very excited.
Yes. And I just love your bold and your fearless approach. Unapologetic, right? That's what my mindset coach taught me. Yes, Kathy, can you just go ahead and take us back to that pivotal moment when you realized it was time to move from your marriage and start fresh? And also, what gave you the courage to go ahead and take that leap?
Yes, I love that question because that's a question that I ask many women as well. And my I call it rock bottom was when I have children. I have four children, and many women stay in marriages. I think one of the top reasons it's, children, finances, and judgment of friends and family. And I did that. I stayed for my children, thinking that was the better route to take. Just stay, be complacent. But one day I was just daydreaming in my kitchen and saying that the children, by me staying, they are going to think that this is what love is. They are going to think that this was what a great marriage is, right? By what I was emulating to them in my very own broken marriage. And I said, I don't want that for them. And in that moment, it was a split second daydream, as I said, in the kitchen. They can't think that this is normal because the chances of them recreating it in their own lives has a greater percentage of doing that. And so I decided that that was the day that I would tell my ex that I wanted a divorce. My divorce was very, very long and drawn out, like so many divorces are. It was also started before COVID, but then COVID happened only, 8 months later. So then that even prolonged the process. But I would say that the financial end of it, I was a stay-at-home mom for, many, many years. I was going back to work part-time at year 17, but it was literally part-time. I was still the 100% the stay-at-home mom that was driving four children back and forth and all the conferences, doctor's appointments, grocery. I did it all. So working full time just wasn't an option. I was their caregiver and the provider in the sense of maintaining the ship meaning the home. And so when the divorce started, really right away, the control that my ex had because he was the financial breadwinner. So paychecks that might have come in that I then had control over the money and split it up to bills and spending money for kids, divvied up our monthly bills. He stopped, I stopped doing that. He took the paychecks for himself. and you're left with nothing as a stay-at-home mom. You're begging, you have to plead for money. There was times that, I was begging for grocery money, and it was just so awful, down to the my car payments now not being paid, anything that you could think of. I didn't want this to happen to other women. The thought of this happening to my own daughters, my own mother, I would never want these women in a situation. And I knew I had to create something. And it took many years. As I said, the divorce, I was still very feeling less than and not worthy. Um, Throughout the divorce, as I said, we owned a business together, and I basically walked away with my retirement fund. That the business that I put in, since my name wasn't on the business, um, the state that I'm in just did not give me anything. And I truly mean, we made a lot of money monthly. He had a very good job, and my weekly alimony to this date, after 21 years of marriage, is $230 a week. So I live in, a very rich county, an expensive county. And again, just having four children, I'm like, how did this happen? How did the court system fail me? And I know that many other women have felt this way, continue to feel this way. And it's such a shame, because it's 2025 and the system is very antiquated. There is no value put on women that stay home. I felt very much judged and looked at as I'm I should be so grateful that I got to stay home, rather than the court system putting value on the best person to stay home, which is a mother or father. And so this is where this really stemmed from. I knew that my story, had to be shared, and how could I share it in a positive way? And I think many times, if you're divorced, people feel like, oh, she's for divorce, yay rah. I'm like, no, I'm for marriage. I think marriage is great, but I think, yes, I'm also very much for divorce. That if you're not happy and you're not feeling loved and valued, then no, there's no reason you should stay there for anyone. And so that is where this whole coaching business, as I said, I've been in teaching and an educator and an advisor. And so it was just naturally kind of born through my story that I should then be now a life coach to women. And so I help women that are stuck in the should I go or should I stay phase of their marriage, and help them navigate that and feel that their choice, that they are very confident in their choice. And then I also really promote to the married women the postnuptial agreement workbook, because while you are married and while it's going wonderfully and your husband thinks that you're still the best thing since sliced bread, that would be the time to do this workbook, where you're really going over your assets and everything that you've worked for together. And in the case of a divorce, how would assets get divided? And when you're in a loving state, it will be created fairly, versus when you go through a divorce and now you're trying to divvy things up. Of course, emotions are involved, and usually one person is very hurt more so than the other one. And they feel like, oh, it's my money, I earned it. And as I said, it's much better to two loving individuals create this division in a loving way, in a loving state, a loving phase, rather than putting the government and letting the government decide what your what your livelihood is going to be, when this judge, these lawyers, they don't know you. They've known you for a hot second.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate and are probably going through what you've gone through. And we need more women like you to help to
Mm.
help us out. I wish I had somebody when I was going through my divorce, because it was hell. Like it was horrible, like having to go through that. Mine was mostly with the custody aspect of it, because, I was a heavy drinker. He was also a partier. And it took about 4 years to finalize that divorce. Like, even we're separated for 4 years, and I felt like I couldn't really move on with my life,
Yes.
with him. Still married to me legally on paper, but in my heart, I was divorced. I was divorced.
Yes, and I don't think why does the divorce have to go on that long? And one of my, trademark saying is that the court system isn't broken because if it's broken, you try to fix it. It's really just corrupt. Bottom
Yeah.
line, that it's corruption, and who knows who? It's all in kind of who you know and who's maybe paying a little bit this way more so than the other one, and it's very unfortunate. But that really is, I mean, we see it in all different areas of the court system, not just within divorce, but how crooked it really can be.
Yeah, that is a whole nother podcast, right? We
Yeah.
can talk about that one forever. My husband has stories. My current husband has stories because he was married previously too. I mean, he's still going to court with this. I mean, I have a stepson. He's about 11 years old. And still, his ex-wife is constantly, well, that's not what it says in the court paper. Da, 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 da. Like, it's like back and forth. And he represents himself. He's always had to represent himself because he's all lawyers are crooked. They're just taking your money. They don't care about me, you know?
Yeah. Hmm.
So
It's
he learned to family court on his own.
Yes, I represented myself too at a time
Yeah.
on my own and was happy that I did motions that were filed. I did win on those. That was a true major win because during my divorce I felt that I didn't win, clearly coming out of something where, there would be a lot of money left for me, for my children, for retirement and during up until even retirement that I didn't get. And when I represented myself, that was the first time I got a win. So it was just like, Kathy, you know what you're doing. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't, because the first time that you feel like you had a win in this is the one time that you represented yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
We advocate for ourselves.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. No, and I love your message about protecting your assets. Would you go ahead and just give a piece of advice to a woman who's feeling unsure about setting boundaries when it comes to finances in marriage?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's a very broad kind of question because it depends on if they're just getting married or are they married but they're happily married or are they married but wanting a divorce. Unfortunately, if you've talked with your spouse about the wanting a divorce, then then he will still be very much on edge and very protective over his self and what he feels are his belongings. So that probably is not going to be the best time to then do a post-nuptial agreement. But for those listeners that don't know, a prenuptial agreement is something that you do before you're married that really divides your assets. Like if you've had a retirement before you got married, okay, is that 100% yours? You're going to keep that. If you got a divorce, would that be divided? And so on. And then obviously a postnuptial agreement is something that you create together when, after you got married. And so I really feel it really in my heart, it's so important. I create or say that it's equivalent to life insurance. Like so many people feel like they gamble with it, like, oh, I don't need it, but God forbid you need it, you're so thankful you had it. And that's really a postnuptial agreement. It is so important because how many women, thousands, millions of women are saying, no, this is what happened to me, or this was ripped away from me, or, I was left without a home, a car. Until we can normalize loving individuals working together in that process, you have to protect yourself. And any contract that you write, whether people want to believe it or not, it's fine. But a marriage it's a contract, it is a business deal. Any contract you ever have, whether it's a job, whether you buy a car, you sign a contract. Even in a marriage, you sign a contract. So it's protecting yourself. It's really protecting yourself that here, if we have children together, you know, who, uh, who's going to pay for the lawyers? How many women, if they have no income coming in because they're a stay-at-home mom, how do they even afford a lawyer to represent them right from day one? They don't. So it is so important, again, just to be able to not have somebody else decide all of these things for you and for you to break down everything, which is in my workbook because it's my experience, right down to credit cards. Women are maybe not educated on if you have credit cards, and if you're an authorized user, even though you're not the primary, you still have to pay on that debt. So if that has a limit of, say, $30,000 and he maxes it out, during that divorce, you still have to pay for half of that. And I know for me, we had joint credit cards, and we had millions of points on, because it was a business one, so it was being used all the time. And they were cashed in for the value in gift cards, like $20,000. I never got one of those because I wasn't the primary. So something like that is, so, it is your asset. That's $10,000 that would have been my asset, and he would have had 10,000. So all these little things that you don't think of, or in the height, in the heat of the moment, and you're like, okay, I got to worry about my car and the house and the kids. And but there's so much more, right? There's so many subcategories to all of those things, such as your children. And, if they're in high school and they play sports, or if they go to the prom and they need to get a dress or a tux or buy the tickets that are expensive, and a car and the insurance and the registration, the service fees, who is paying for all of that? So I really feel like we need to start educating women, young women in high school. This should be being taught. Finances is very much a male dominated world. Think about it, many financial advisors, if you have one, right, it's probably a male. So getting them very educated in the just financial literacy part of it, and knowing how they can create their own financial wealth before marriage and then during marriage, but still continue their own wealth, and then create a new one with your spouse.
Yes, I love that. Now, in your opinion, why do you think so many women fall into that mindset of like, oh, my husband would never do that to me? How can we actually start shifting that narrative? Because I hear it all the time too. Even myself, sometimes I catch like, oh, he'll never do that to me, but you never know.
And you know what is so funny? I love that you asked that question because I was one of those women. I truly was. I remember having my children. They were very little, and was at, my best girlfriend's house, and she was having some trouble with her husband. And she's like, but I would never leave him because I know that he would do the X, Y, and Z. He would stay in the house, fight me for the house. He'd fight me for this one, give me this. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh gosh, that sucks. That really sucks that she feels that way. I'm so lucky. Like, no, mine never do that. Mine would never do that. And I think it's very hard for women. My parents, I'm so grateful they're still alive. They're in their late 80s. They're still married. Um, so I think it's harder for somebody who's raised in a family that's very loving, and if parents are still married, because you see, right? You're mimicking what you see, and you just think that everyone out there in the world is comes from a place of love and has a loving heart. Um, so it is a very tough nut to crack, so to speak, because a lot of women, like I said, even with life insurance, it's the same thing. How many people don't have it because they don't really see the use in it, and they don't think it's going to happen to them, even though they know, yes, death is unavoidable, but it's just, I'm not going to I'm going to die when I'm old. So it's very hard. I think, to get women to hop on board and say, yes, this is something of value, which is why I am trying to promote at such a young age that women start taking pride in their own self creation, their own self worth. So getting them to be involved and want to educate themselves, research themselves, research about ways to create their own assets and create their own generational wealth, is doing it before they're married. Because I feel like when we attach it, when women, if they're even learning about it, it's usually when they're married and much older. Why not start that beforehand? And to be able to create, I would love to create truly workshops where mothers and daughters or the caregiver of a young female can come together, because there's still, you can always learn, like we say, every day we're learning. So even the older women in their lives, there would be so much for them to benefit from by going to these workshops, but it could help create that unity and just feel a sense of comfortability, that when usually you go to these things, you're very timid to raise your hand or ask those questions. But that is where we, learn, and that's where we grow.
Yes, I always say ask for help, raise your hand. If you have a question, speak up. That's how
Yes.
we'll get those answers, and because we may be answering somebody else's question that they had in their head that they were too afraid to go ahead and ask for themselves. So you're helping people out too by asking.
Yes, yes, you are. I mean, how many times has that happened, right? I think everyone, even listening will say, yes, that is so true. I've been somewhere and somebody asked something or just said something, and that's what I was going to say, or that was my question. And so, yes, definitely ask those questions. Those questions, no question is stupid, especially for finances. It's always ever changing. And right now, like even crypto, hey, how crazy is that? And what is that? Don't, I'm even asking that. What really is that? So, yes, ask those questions.
Yes, and you also talk about finding your own happiness, which I always say is non-negotiable. We need to find our own happiness, no matter where we have to go within. That's why my podcast is called Stay Within.
Yeah.
But I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you, what does happiness actually look like to you now compared to when you were married? How did you start rediscovering joy in your life?
Yes, love that. Um, I feel like anyone knows, no one, everyone wants to live in peace, right? To be happy, to live in peace. And when you feel that, you have two different feelings in your belly. One's a butterfly feeling, which can be like a good feeling, but when you have that sucker punch, it's like you just know. Like, have you ever walked into a party or been to an event or anywhere where you have that sucker punch like feeling and you're like, something's off. I shouldn't be here. I'm not in alignment. That's the number. That's one thing that I definitely tell women. If it's a good or a bad, if they're hemming and hawing, because a lot of women, especially my age, I just turned 50, but if you have children, you do lose yourself. You're like, what in the world makes me happy? And so I tell people, I do say social media is so great for that, or technology, the phones, because a lot of women don't know what their happiness is or their hobbies. And I always say, go to what you scroll and probably spend hours a day on. And say if you find that you're scrolling and it's always like baked goods and food, things like that. You'll know what your hobbies are or where your desires are. Because when you feel also like a pinge of envy, let's not say jealousy, but you see somebody doing something on a social media app and you're like, gosh, I wish I was her. Then like that's where your heart is driving you. And then you just have to outsource it to maybe joining a cooking class, or, there are so many great things, especially with Facebook, with the groups that you can join and you can meet people. And my happiness came from that. So, like, kind of going forward, but then stepping back for me, I found that the best help going through divorce was, and trying to find my happiness and what made me smile again, is connecting through social media. Because now remember, we're still in COVID, even though divorce started before, and then you have COVID, no one could even go outside. So social media was huge for me in that sense. And it was great because no one knew me. The people that I chose to become friendly with and ask for their advice or their opinion, they didn't know me, so they weren't biased, or they didn't know my ex. And I've really felt that that was genuine advice, because some of them were going through a divorce as well. Some had already been divorced. And it was just very authentic. It felt good. It felt good to vent and not be judged, because we always worry about judgment of others, especially as women more so than men. And I just feel like, if I can throw that out there for women going through anything hard, look outside your circle. Because one of my best friends, she's been married and she has a great marriage, been married to her husband since she was young, or they started dating when they were like 17. Um, so she's been with him forever. But how could I talk to her about divorce if she's never been divorced? As much as you think your best girlfriends, or will know, they don't know unless they've gone through it. So I think connecting with like-minded people is like super, super important. And then being able to say no. I really said, you know what makes me happy? These are the things that I want to fit in my day every day, whether it's worshiping, reading, working out, spend some time going to obviously work, my children, having a home cooked meal, like all those things are so important that you have to write them down and what's going to make you feel complete at the end of each day. And now, do we do those things every day, all year long? No, of course not. But you will find what is an alignment for you. And there really is, I know we use that word a lot now, alignment, but it really is so true. You'll know when you learn to say, set boundaries and no, I can't go. You don't have to give a reason why you can't go. Just know I can't attend. And I really make sure that my buckets, all my buckets for the day are filled before I give myself to someone else. Because I think as women, we do that all the time and we give, and our bucket's depleted and it's been depleted for so long. And that's the worst place that you can be. And you really do. You have to make yourself happy to be able to be a better person for the loved ones around you.
Yes, because it's a ripple effect. When you're happy with yourself, everyone feels happy around you.
Yes,
Because,
yes. If you're grouchy and you're just, if I'm angry all the time, then it's going to wash off onto my kids, right?
yeah.
They're the ones that are going to be there, and to my boyfriend, and to my parents, and to whoever, even at work. And if I don't like my job, then let's find a way. Let's find a way to get a new job. Like life is so short, and we find that women, we just stay, we become very complacent. And then everything, misery loves company, because then you start hanging with those people. If they're gossiping, then you want to gossip. And when you find yourself in that situation, again, that's another red flag. Get out. I always say I don't like judgy McJudgertons. I don't have time. If you're judging, don't do it with me, because I don't have time for that. Because I have 24 hours is not enough time for me in one day to get all the stuff done that I want to do. And I'm not wasting it on garbage like that.
Oh, I know. I used to always care about what people thought of me, what they would say about me. It's like, oh my gosh, why would I even care? They don't even like themselves.
Okay, yay, yes, exactly. I say that to my children. I'm like, please don't. We really do. It is hard to not say, oh, we don't care about what anyone says. I mean, that we're just stone cold. I mean, no, there are moments, right, that we still that comes across us, our minds. But I do say to my children, tell me right now who you're worried about. Like, who are you worried about saying something about you? And they could say, whoever, let's pretend, oh, it's Sally. Oh, okay. Well, do you like Sally? Do you think Sally lives this great life? Is she a positive person? Is she physically active? All things that I think are important that I have, you know, raised my kids with. And they'll be like, well, no, she's miserable. She doesn't have any friends, or, she's talking about this one, or she, got fired from her job. Okay, then why do you care? Because you would never want her life. So why do we care about people that we would never ever want their life? What they say about us, right? Like, isn't that funny? Because that's usually how most people, when we're thinking of somebody that might be judging us, it's usually like the enemies in our life, or the person that, has done us wrong or said things, and we like tiptoe around them, but yet they hate their life.
So true. So true. Yes, because yeah, we do care still that what what people are saying and what people are doing, but not as much. Okay.
Yes.
I used to be on it all the time and I'm like, because it comes across my mind and then I'm like, I just let it dissolve. It goes away. It goes away and I don't think about it ever again.
Gina, I mean, let's say this. I will say, as I've transformed myself and really, dove into the, self-help and reading and podcasts and doing certifications, and even in my physical health and my nutrition, everything, and started, got a life coach and spend money on that education for me. I realize I've already put myself in a different bracket. I am not with the same bracket that the people that I see every day, whether it's an acquaintance or through my children, because obviously you're around a lot of the same parents if you have, school age kids, because I want to be a better person. I want to next level myself. So I don't have time for any of that. And the people that you surround yourself with in those groups, they are doing like such amazing things that you're trying to now catch up to them in such a positive way, not a jealousy way, that all this little superficial stuff, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe I don't have time for it. Because as I said before, if you really dive deep and put like 5 things that I tell other women to do, you need 5 things. And one is got to be spiritual. You've got to find something, whether it is religion, whether it's meditation, whatever, your physical fitness, got to put some time into that. Definitely your immediate home, your children or your parents, whatever that might look like. Obviously your job, because if that's whatever that is, paying the bills, by the time you dump into all of those buckets, you don't have enough. And I really say that with 24 hours, by the time you sleep and shower you don't have time to sit here. Like if I see that I'm on the phone even too long, I hate the phone. I'm not a big phone person. I really am not. Because a lot of times, even with a best girlfriend, then you start talking about, oh yeah, there was traffic on the highway today. And we don't need to talk about that. Like you're wasting time. But I feel so proud of myself by saying that I have next leveled and jumped just like I know you have. Whereas you don't have time for all the minutia stuff of day-to-day stuff to listen to other people talk about.
Yes, and that's what I did. I had to learn how to say no because I was a people pleaser. I was conditioned that way because my mom's a people pleaser, but she's getting a lot better, a lot better now. She's setting boundaries because I started setting boundaries and started saying no.
Yes, no. Like, no, I can't. And everyone knows, like, I'm fine with that. No, I don't want to. Like, and I don't have to give a reason anymore. I mean, we say we lie like, oh, I just want to sit home on the couch, so make a lie. That could have been a younger me. No, I want to stay home and sit on my couch today. That's why I can't, and I'm fine with that.
Yes, I love that so much because my husband recently, I mean, he's a go-getter. He's like always doing something. And then he and I were just sitting on the couch and, he was like, I feel horrible. I said, but why? He's like, because I really wasn't productive today. I said, you weren't productive today? I said, give yourself some grace. I said, you cleaned the windows outside. You're taking care of me because I'm not feeling good. And you also are taking care of Isaac and then the pets here. I said, you are being productive. You even went to the store today. I said, that's being productive. I said, give yourself some grace. Relax. It's okay to relax and just chill out once in a while. You don't have to be all hustle grind every single day. And this is your weekend. I told him, relax. Let's just enjoy ourselves. We were so
Yes.
conditioned to do everything, otherwise we fail. We're a failure if we don't. But I have that, I reverse my mindset. I'm like, hey, if my body's telling me you need to sit down for a little bit and take a rest, I'm going to take a rest. I'm going to listen to my body. I'm going to go ahead and honor my body by doing that. And I've
Yes.
learned that. I love that so much. Oh, so thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, no, it's so important. And I think obviously, we live in a world that is go, 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 go. And we have like normalized that to go, go, go. But where are we going? And if you look at people, it's like it's what's the word when you're saying one thing, but it's the other. It's like we live in a world where it's go, go, go. But then if you look at most people and you say, well, what did you do today? Oh, I didn't have enough time. I didn't. Oh, so you were that busy? And then you look at their cell phone, you say, okay, let's go. Because I do this with people in fitness. If they tell me they don't have time to work out, and I'll say, well, let me see your phone. And it's 7.5 hours today alone spent on your phone. So it's so ironic. The word is right there. But you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
we are rush, 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 but no one's really being productive in that rush, rush, rush because so many people are, overweight. They're not eating right. They're not cooking homemade meals. They're ordering out there. So it's like we're doing everything that we shouldn't be. So again, when I say level up and I'm where I'm at, I'm like, I got it. I got it with the people that I'm surrounding myself with. We have it. We understand that what you're doing is wrong. You don't need to be doing all this extra and worrying about everybody else and the scrolling for hours and hours because it's not benefiting you or your family.
Yes, and I love movement so much. I used to always say, "Oh, I don't have time." I was one of those girls like you were talking about earlier. But
Hmm.
now, I mean, like, you at least have 10 minutes for yourself. Come on now.
And
At least 10 minutes to do something. And it could just even be stretching as long as you're moving your body. It depends on how you're feeling. Like I always say this, like if I have a wake up and have a lot of energy, I will do an intense workout. If I feel like okay, I feel a little bit lower energy, I will just do some stretching or a yoga movement, something, but I have to move my body. Us humans, we're not meant just to be sedentary, just like sitting here and do it in front of our computer the whole time. We're meant to move.
absolutely. I mean, 100%. If you know me, I love movement. I can't sit still. I love to rest. So I'm not like, trust me, when I say I can't sit still, I have to move, but I also am so happy just sitting on the couch staring at the wall. Like I can do that and I can be fine with it. And I think we need to normalize that and bring that back. Now kids are always, I'm bored, I'm bored. And the funny thing is, I'm like, well, you're bored because you don't even know how to play with yourself. You
Yeah.
know, like they have all these toys or whatever, like much younger kids, but they don't even play with them. Like use your imagination and get outside. And if we bring it back to basics, simplify it, it really is easy.
Yes, it's interesting because my children, well, when the oldest was younger, even the little one now, he's 9 years old, and he said, "Oh, I'm bored." I said, "Well, go ahead and you'll find something to do. I'm sure you'll find something to do." Sure enough, 5 minutes later, he is creating a movie. All use his imagination with his toys. It's like he'll figure something out. They'll figure something out. They won't be bored. They won't sit there just, I'm bored. They'll do something. So I just let it be. You're bored? Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
be bored then.
Be
Bored
bored.
is fine. Stare at the wall. Like I said, it's fine. Talk to yourself. I don't know. They're all great.
Oh, the children are so funny. Oh my goodness. I can talk to you forever, but I wanted to ask you, where can our listeners go ahead and connect with you and work with you and just to even start a conversation with you?
Yes, yes. They can go to my website at kathyferris.com. They can click on a 30-minute complimentary call and and I'll just talk to them and figure out where they are and where they are in the stage of their life and just how they're feeling and better guide them that way. They can listen to my podcast, Catapulting Confidence. And I am on Instagram as Kathy Ferris Coaching. So they can always follow me there and then DM me and we can chat that way as well.
Wonderful. And I'll have everything in the show notes for our listeners. But last question, if you can just go ahead and give like one piece of advice to a woman who feels stuck, unsure, or afraid to take that next step, what would you go ahead and say to them?
That you will be okay, that I I would say that you will be okay. Of course, you will be okay. And if you could go back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, go back to a moment in your life that was awful, that you just felt that was another rock bottom. That was how did I get through that? And look at where you are now. You got through that and then some. And you might be in another, rock bottom. Hey, life is, ups and downs all the time. But everything works out. You are meant to be exactly right here, right now, in this moment, to have these certain friends in your life that came into your life or left your life. It's all part of your journey and use it to help other people. Use whatever your rock bottom is as service to others. And when you let go and take a deep breath and you feel that alignment, everything starts flowing to you and through you. And that's what you push back out into the universe. And it's a beautiful thing.
I love that message. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for being on my show. I just know our listeners are going to gain so much more clarity, especially when it comes to divorce and their assets and the next steps that they need to go ahead and take. And I really hope that they connect with you and work with you because you seem like an awesome person to be to have as a coach. So yes, connect with Kathy. But thank
Thank
you.
you. Connect with Kat. That's what I should call it. Yeah. But
Yeah.
so I really, I mean, as I said, I work with women that are married and happily married, and women that are really stuck. But for my women that are married, more importantly, yes, let's talk and chat and protect yourself because all of us women out there, we never thought that we'd be in these situations that we were with divorce. And if you could protect yourself and know that everything's already lined out and what, would happen if you were in that situation, that is being in alignment too, and you're living a much more peaceful life as you go.
Yes, peaceful life. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Kathy.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Me too. Me too.